This is a global pandemic. This is a global pandemic of unemployment. And this is a crisis within a crisis. Hi! Hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm a flight attendant and a photographer. I usually am pretty bubbly, when I talk, but today I just want to be more serious and share my thoughts on COVID-19 as a flight attendant. Let's be honest, I feel like the whole world is changing in many ways because of the virus, and no one really knows how long it takes until the aviation industries get recovered. It's pretty obvious, but I'm going to back it up with even more data and also by reading some news to you. Okay, so how COVID-19 will impact travel and tourism sector. According to Forbes India, there are 330 million jobs provided in travel and tourism industry in 2019 globally, which is 1 in 10 jobs. Namely, every 10 people, there's 1 person working in travel and tourism industry, which also means that right now, every 10 out of 1 person is very likely jobless, or his or her job is suspended or is on unpaid leave. And because of COVID-19, there's 2.9% rise in global unemployment rate due to travel and tourism job losses, which is 5 times the impact of the 2008 global financial crisis. That's why I said this is a crisis within a crisis. We're all facing something that is so unpredictable and no one knows when things will get back to normal, or this is actually the new normal. Why am I saying this is a global crisis? Because, for example, USA and also China, which is heavily affected by the COVID-19, there are 2 of the countries which earn the most from travel and tourism industry. Not to mention some other developing countries which also heavily depend on tourism. For example, those in Southeast Asia like Thailand, Vietnam, etc. And going back to the main topic on my thoughts on the global pandemic as a flight attendant, I'm going to read you more news on this matter before I share my own thoughts. According to New York Times, the airline business is terrible. It will probably get even worse. An industry that is intimately familiar with the failure confronts a crisis unlike any other. Executives said they have no idea when passengers will return. The future is even more bleak. With much of the world closed for business and no widely available vaccine in sight, it may be months, if not years, before airlines operate as many flights as they did before the crisis. Even when people start flying again, the industry could be transformed. Consumer fears about catching the virus on crowded planes could lead to reconfigured seating. Carriers may initially entice very travelers with discounts, but if they can fill up flights, they may resort to raising tickets price, which also means that there will be less people who will be able to afford the flights. So that will definitely lower the incentive for people to travel. So I really start to wonder how many flight attendants are needed if this really happened. Desperate to preserve cash, the airlines have also aggressively discouraged customers from seeking refunds, offering vouchers for future travel instead, because if all the flights are refunded, that could actually lead to bankruptcy. And if it really happened, many employees have to be laid off. And this is definitely not the first thing that the airline companies would like to do, because not only there will be a big loss of human resources, it also would take a very long process to rehire people and train them, especially flight attendants and also pilots. According to International Air Transport Association, so they actually did a commissioned survey of recent travelers They found out that 60% anticipates a return to travel within 1 to 2 months of containment of the COVID-19 pandemic, but 40% actually indicate that they could wait 6 months or more. 69 indicate that they could delay a return to travel until the personal financial situation stabilizes. And the most recent news of this association also indicates that they foresee that the social and economic immobility caused by COVID-19, plunging passengers level across the world, will take longer to recover than what was originally expected. So they expect that passengers levels to recover will only happen by 2024. And it is considered because of a few factors. First, it really depends on when different countries will lift the travel restrictions. And even if countries across the world lift the restrictions like quarantine, etc., we cannot guarantee whether we will see a second or a third or fourth waves of reinfection after lifting the lockdown restrictions. It is just so unpredictable. Like, this is something that are totally out of our hand. And honestly, I'm not that optimistic about the current situation. I do really agree with what ITAs predicts. I do think that if everything goes accordingly, the aviation industry may recover within 2 to 3 years, but still it will take 2 to 3 years to recover. And within these 2 to 3 years, we still have bills to pay, we still have a lot of things to take care of. My assumption on aviation industry is that many airlines are very likely to emerge from the crisis with fewer employees. For example, because of the 9/11 terrorist attack in the US, it took several years for the volume of passengers to rebound. And this time, it doesn't only happen in the US, but the whole world. So I would say this is seen as the worst thing that has ever happened in the history of aviation industry. And I don't know about you, but like recently I've also been seeing more and more feeds on social media saying that maybe it's time to think about what we have done to the Mother Earth, and that we should all start to focus on conscious travel, which I would say is something reasonable, especially when many people leave their carbon footprints excessively in recent years, just to, some of them really just to fly to somewhere to go to the most Instagrammable spot for a picture. Is it necessary? I'm not sure. And many people start to have time to think about that. That may also change their action. So who knows what will happen even when everything gets back to normal. Maybe there will be less people traveling because now we're all used to staying at home. So some of you may wonder, how about my situation as a flight attendant working in an airline from Hong Kong? Well, basically my last flight was around in the middle of February, and then I took some annual leave, and then I took some special leave, which is specially made because of COVID-19, and I was on unpaid leave for 3 weeks. My rosters, or aka flying schedules, has been empty since March basically, and it's still empty in June. Although I did standby for 2 weeks last month, I was not called for work at all. My salary is heavily affected as well. I'm earning around 40% of what I'm supposed to earn normally. So how my salary is calculated in my airline is that we have a base salary, and also on top of that we have allowance. Namely, when we are in a foreign country, we would receive a certain amount of money so that we could spend when we're in the foreign country. And since I'm not flying to anywhere, I don't receive that. And speaking of that, apart from my job as a flight attendant, I'm also a travel and documentary photographer. And obviously I can't travel, so there's no much work that can be done elsewhere, but back home in Hong Kong. And when I'm back home in Hong Kong, I usually take jobs like event photography and stuff, and there is no event right now. So yeah, I'm also kind of affected by that. Yeah, so this is my current situation. I'm not any better than many of you, but I'm not here to throw a pity party. I'm still very thankful of my situation because first, I live in Hong Kong. We are not in a total lockdown. We can still go out on the street, we can go to work, we can at least have a social life. Bars and restaurants are still open in Hong Kong. It's not that bad. And second, I have a shelter on top of my head, and I know that many people who are affected by COVID-19 don't even have a shelter, and their future is really at stake. So I'm not here to complain, and I really hope that many of them can be receiving help as well. And another thing that I'm very thankful is that I'm still earning a certain amount of money, not much, but enough to get by, so that I have a lot of free time to think about my life, my personal goals, and I have a lot of free time to work on my own personal projects. And I would not be even starting my YouTube channel if not because of the current situation, because I'm not busily flying, and I have a lot of capacity to think of the topics that I want to talk about and share with you my life a little bit. Well, you may be thinking, if this persists, you may be paranoid and stressed because you don't know if you would get fired at any time. And even if we would fly, there would be less flights, which means less income. Well, however, I don't know how many of you would really see flight attendant as your lifetime job. I do know some people telling me that they would actually quit the job after 2 to 3 years staying in the airline, and many end up not sticking to their deadline and staying in the work because they just cannot give up the lifestyle that they have. So if you are those people who once promised yourself that you would actually leave this industry one day anyways, I don't know, maybe it's now the time to think about what's next and how to get there. And for those that who initially thought that this could be their lifetime job, I guess it's really time to be realistic and accept that sometimes things just don't go accordingly, that we shouldn't take anything for granted, and that we should always have a backup plan. And if we don't, this is the time to create one for ourselves. So even when the worst scenario happened, we would not be out of control. We would not be out of our mind because we would know what to do next. Well, it doesn't mean that we have to be fearless. It doesn't mean that we have to be calm all the time, because fear is really not the problem. It is how we channel our fear. Fear gives us the energy to deal with dangers now and prepare for the dangers later. So ask yourself, right now you're not working, what are you doing? Are you just staying at home and wait for the next good thing that is coming to you? Or you're trying to reach out to the good things by yourself? And even if you're pretty content with your current situation right now, and that you have already found your passion and etc., it's still the time to think about how you can create more in your life. Here are some of the things that I have been doing, or some of the things that I think we all can take into consideration and apply them into our daily life, so that at least we have the momentum of being productive even when we cannot really work right now. So what can we do right now as a flight attendant who may not really be working? There are a few things that we can take into consideration. First of all, if you are those that are heavily depending on your income as a flight attendant and really don't feel positive of staying in this job anymore because of the situation and are looking for a new job, I would understand that if you would settle quickly for anything that would offer you a higher salary, and yes, you should, if that would really relieve your money stress. But if you're not totally in a rush, I would suggest you equip your business and interview skills first, because when you're a more presentable person during an interview, your bargaining power is higher. Thus, you may be able to negotiate a little bit more. Okay, when I say interview skills, I'm also talking about video interviews, because this is what many of the companies are doing these days because of social distancing and etc. So in case you are preparing for your next job interview, please be prepared for how you're going to present yourself in front of a camera, because it's going to be very different, especially for us flight attendant, when we're used to serving passenger face to face, and now we're doing that in front of a video, in front of a camera. It's going to be very different, so be prepared for that. And why I stress a lot on equipping and elevating your interview skills is because, let's be honest, the final stage of hiring process really have been slowing down in a lot of companies because of the COVID-19 situation. Many are holding back because of that, and it will really take longer. So even if they may not be hiring right now, you want to be on top of their waiting list at least. And how to be there is really heavily depends on how you perform in the interview. So once the opportunities comes, you're ready to jump on the board. Another thing is that if you have been working in your job for a very long time and everything is put on hold right now, I think it is time to refresh your CV, your resume, and your LinkedIn profile. Because throughout these years, I'm pretty sure you have acquired more skills and you would like to talk about it so that people would be able to find you on LinkedIn, or in case you're really applying for another job, you are prepared. And about business skills. So we have a lot of time right now, and I personally believe in entrepreneurship. I believe that everyone should at least know how to manage their money, their personal life with an entrepreneurial mindset, because that's how you create value in your life. And you may not necessarily need to run a business, but if you treat your job and your career as a business, then you would be more passionate about that, and you would be more careful and detail-minded on what you're doing, on how you perform. And I personally see that as a very important lesson on my personal growth. So that would be my suggestion. The second thing would be, if you intend to stick with your job and wait until the day everything get back to normal, it's totally fine. But since we have a lot of time, and this is what I've been doing, is that I'm trying to create multiple sources of income. So for me now, I work as a flight attendant, receiving a limited amount of salary from the company. I'm a photographer, and now I start YouTube and hoping that one day this channel can generate passive income. And I'm also working on my social media account, trying to seek for cooperation with different brands, and that I will receive more job opportunities by putting myself out there. So in case you will be interested in creating more sources of income, I will put down a few links below in the description box so that you can check out different articles or videos on that. Because I'm not an expert on this topic, I just know that that is something that I have to do, and I'm trying to work on it myself as well. And the third thing would be go digital, namely to put yourself out there more on social media. I know that some people may be concerned about privacy. Well, there are many creative ways to still put yourself out there without showing your face, without showing your identity. You don't need to let everyone to know every single detail of your life on social media, but at least try to learn about how this works, because I can see this is going to be the future. This is actually the normal thing already, and this will continue. People basically talk about everything on social media, so it's really important to have your own voice in this digital world. And last but not least, if you are like me who are considering to stay in the aviation industry, just want to see how things goes, please refresh your safety knowledge. We're here to do our job, and I'm sure after months of not flying, many of us may not remember how to react when accident happen, and it's really important that we are prepared before we go back to work. So yeah, refresh your memory from time to time, and definitely read your safety manual when you need to. So yeah, this is my thoughts as a flight attendant on COVID-19. I know that we're all in this together. If you're like me as a flight attendant being stuck at home, feel free to comment down below and share with me your thoughts and also your personal stories regarding this situation. And also, please like this video and hit the subscribe button for more on-the-road personal growth videos, song covers, and also tips on photography. I'm Vanessa, and I will see you next time. Bye!